Alrighty, so I just wanted to do a little bit more with you guys in terms of, like I said, talking about beveling, talking about how we can kind of maybe add other little details here, and take advantage of the mirror tool even more too as well. So I figure we kind of want to round some of these corners off a little bit to make it, more like this and have some of that roundness. And it might be fun to have some little arches kind of going through here to kind of connect these legs a little bit. And that'll just show you once again the flexibility of this mirror system and how really cool it is. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some extra edge loops here, because we kind of need some right up here to allow us to kind of create arch shapes through there. So I'm just going to go, whoops, that was Alt-X. Let me do Alt-C, because remember, that's your loop cut. So remember, if you left-click drag, right, it puts that edge loop in. You just drag it wherever you want it to go, right? And then I can just kind of left-click drag, kind of put one up right there as well. So we kind of added 2 new loops here with loop cut. And that's what I wanted with those, right? Now I'm going to go to 3 for face mode, and just go back to my regular Q for selection. And I'm going to create one of these arches here first, right? Now, this is actually, since I want these arches to kind of join up at those mirror points and be one solid piece, I am actually going to turn clipping on, right? And this is one of those things, if you don't, and you just want these to stay fully separate, clipping can be off. But clipping really is what allows it to kind of sew up that seam when you get kind of to the 0 axis for that, right? Like the 0 here for the X and the 0 here for the Y. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to extrude, right? Control E for extrude. And in this case, remember, if you just do middle mouse button, it's going to kind of do a view extrude. I don't really want that. I actually want this to pull out at least marginally straight, right? This kind of, the actual yellow plus, believe it or not, for this extrusion, moves this directly out along its normal direction, right? So I can kind of extrude to bring that out a little bit, like so. But you see how it kind of keeps it straight on that axis. Now I'm going to switch to my move tool. Now, to actually have these properly sew up down the center, this face needs to be gone. So I'm going to hit delete. Right? Remember, delete on your keyboard brings up the delete options, faces. And then I can hit 2 for edge mode, right? Double click on that edge loop, and there's a border edge here now. And with my move tool on, in this case, I don't want to necessarily just go along the green axis. Remember, these little squares, if I left click drag, you see how it allows me to move along 2 axes? And you notice with that clipping on, you see how it kind of sews those up when we get them there? And that's what's really cool about that clipping, is now those won't come apart, right? That's actually a seamless piece now. So even with this, if you wanted to create something like that, clipping is going to be awesome. Clipping is very, very cool. Now in this case, I need to put some more edge loops in, so I'll just hit Alt-C for loop cut. Put one about there, and I'll put one about there. And I can hit W for move, right? Grab that kind of red square. Double left click, right? Remember, double left click. When you're in edge mode, we'll select edge loops. I can bring that one up a little bit. Maybe rotate this one a little bit just to bend it. There we go. Double left click on that one just to bend it a little bit. It's always good to have that kind of little bit of a bend as it's going down. And now you see we've got this nice little kind of bridge connector there. And the neat thing is we could do the same thing here. So 3 for face mode. And I can go in here and I can just kind of grab that face right there. Control E for extrude, right? Right there. Extrude, right? But in this case, like I said, I like kind of grabbing the, in this case, not doing middle mouse button. Much cooler when you're doing a character creature or a much more free-form shape. But in this case, I want these to come out, at least initially, kind of along that specific axis, right? All right. So that's good. And then I can hit W for move. And we can grab the green square, because remember, that'll move these 2 axes at the same time. Now, I'm also going to delete those faces. Delete, right? Pick the faces option. And then I can go to 2 for edge mode. Double left click. And then once again, of course, we can move these up here. And clipping's already on, so that'll do a nice job kind of just clipping those together, right? That's what clipping does. It makes it so that when these get to that 0 axis, they basically sew together and stay on that 0 axis. Very, very cool feature. And you'll notice because we have both the axes on, it's really kind of doing it for both of them. And then we can just hit Alt-C, just to kind of put an extra edge loop there. And right there as well. W for move. I just move that one up a little bit. Double left click on that one. Move that one up a little bit. And see how we've kind of created these nice little mini arches that kind of connect these legs up in the center a little bit. But they're also high enough that, see, people can still get some legs under here and here kind of stuff, right? But I figured it'd be neat to kind of show you guys, once again, how even in this case, clipping could be great. And you could easily create nice arch shapes without even subdivisional surfaces just by kind of extruding, using clipping to kind of sew those together, and then we could just add some extra edge loops and do a little bit of shaping to them, right? At this point, I want to do some beveling to round off some of the corners a little bit more, particularly these bottom ones initially. So I'm going to hit 2 for edge mode, right? 2 for edge mode. Double left click on that one. And I'm really only going to do it for the top ones. I think the bottom ones, I think the top ones will be fine. And shift, remember shift will add, double left click. So remember, double left click when you're in edge mode selects an edge loop. Shift double left click adds, right? You can select more than one edge loop. And then, of course, we can do our bevel tool, right? Now, I'm going to show you a cool option that the bevel tool has that allows you to add the segments without going to the options box. So Control B is the quick key for bevel, right? So your bevel tool is right here. Control B is it, just like the extrusions I was doing there. Control E, and remember loop cut is Alt C, right? Remember, a lot of these major tools are right there though, but they have great quick keys already for them. So Control B. And of course, right now, it's not doing anything because I haven't grabbed on that. But if I hold down the middle mouse button, this is the important part. Hold it down and don't let it go. So I'm going to hold down the middle mouse button and drag, right? So I'm still holding down the middle mouse button, right? That way I'm still in the same bevel. And this is controlling the width. But if you actually keep holding down the middle mouse button, so I haven't let it go, and then also add S to it, you'll notice that then S switches to segments. So I'm still holding down the middle mouse button, but I've also holding down the S now, and that will let me do segments. Kind of cool, right? Now remember, if that's a little tricky for you, just middle mouse button to do that, then go down here to bevel, open it up, and there's your segments also, right? But it is a neat quick key that S will actually, if you add it to your middle mouse button, still being held down, right? So initially on that middle mouse button to create the width, keep that middle mouse button still held down, then S, it adds to it. But if that's not feeling that comfortable to you, remember, just middle mouse to make the width, and then just open this guy up, right? Click on it, and you can still get your segments from there. And what's cool is that gives us kind of that little bit of extra rounding right there at the bottom. And it's just making it look a little more dynamic, a little bit cooler. I'm not sure if it's the most futuristic one I've ever seen, but like as we get and add texturing and build some other things, we'll make those a little bit more futuristic, add some more definitively sci-fi elements there, right? But trying to get this kind of cool and somewhat futuristic, nice curves, things that look more like they're going to be metals or machine parts and all that stuff. Now, one of the things I want to show you, and you don't have to do this. In fact, I kind of tend to not rely on it that much. But if you go to 4 for object mode, there is actually a modifier called Bevel that will actually apply a bevel to the whole object, right? So this part, don't necessarily do, just kind of trying to watch it. Here's your amount for your width. There's your segments, right? But one of the things you'll notice is that once I apply this, right, now we can see all the edges, but it beveled pretty much every edge loop, right? We didn't necessarily want it for all those, right? That's adding a little more than we needed to, because even these guys are getting beveled. So it is neat. It does go in there and it kind of does do some beveling to it. I've just found it does it to the whole object and every edge on the object. And so sometimes it can be cool, sometimes it can't. It does come with a new profile option for your bevels, right? You can actually go in here and create a custom profile shape. They are adding that to the normal bevel tool though. That's kind of one of the neat things that they're adding soon to regular bevel. In this case, I'm just going to get rid of it because I think we'll have a little more direct control and be able to make it more efficient by just selecting the edge loops we want to bevel, right? So now what I can do is I can come in here and I could double left click on that edge, shift double left click, shift double left click, shift double left click, right? We're just kind of selecting just the edge loops we want to bevel, right? So we're not beveling everything. Shift double left click there, shift double left click. So you see we're just grabbing basically the corners, right? So remember, double left click selects an edge loop, shift double left click allows you to keep selecting more edge loops. But one of the things you'll notice is it's really just allowing us to select kind of the borders, right? Kind of just the all the corners. That way it's not going to try to bevel all these. And so I can just hit Control B for bevel. And then we can kind of just bevel it out. You see how it's just going to make this more efficient for us, right? Still handles these corners pretty well for us. But you're not adding the extra bevels here, 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 right? I'm going to go in here because I didn't hold down the S just to add some segments. In this case, I think maybe 2 will be fine. Oh, no, let's go 3. It's fine. Give it a slightly more rounded quality to it. And there we go. And of course, we can see that this, if we go to 4 for object mode, we can see there's a bit of that flat shading there going on. Remember, that's here. You'll notice that this is actually on, period, right? So when you're doing this, it's kind of still set on. So if I just right-click and do Shade Smooth, you see how it does a really good job of kind of smoothing these all to look pretty good, right? So Shade Smooth, particularly if you have Auto Smooth on, can give you kind of often a nicer result for this. So remember that should be on, right? You see how it kind of changes things a little bit differently depending on if that's on or not. So I tend to like Auto Smooth being on. I think it handles some of the sharper corners better while still shade smoothing the rest of it. So now you can kind of see that also that bevel modifier, you can't go in and grab the edges, right? When you actually go to edit mode, you'll see it's kind of showing the low-res control cage. So that bevel modifier is neat to know about, and it has some of its own neat things that the regular bevel tools are going to get really soon. But I feel like it also has some drawbacks. So I tend to like to just manually bevel because I can control exactly which edges I want to bevel. It's real geometry that can later be edited, right? And you can see this keeps us more efficient, right? So we now have some fairly cool looking stuff. And I think that'll probably be a great place to stop the table, right? It's really achieving what I wanted to show you guys on the table. Inset, bevels, the flexibility and power of the mirror tool, and even how, even on this stuff, initially if you don't need to, you can always turn clipping on later on, and right? These are things you can turn off and on. So because it's a modifier, it's always something you could switch around, right? Unless you officially apply it, then it's done, right? But as long as it's still available as a modifier, you can, turn things off and on, which is really cool, right? So very neat functions. I just want to make sure you guys got to see those a little bit more. And even how just kind of initially bring these together and then adding the edge loops in just by shaping. You get that nice arc rounded shape, right? You don't really always need subdivision surfaces to get the roundness. There are many instances where it's a great super fast shortcut and you should take advantage of it. But there are many instances where you just don't need it and it's overkill, right? And that's really what our environment model is going to teach us, is that we can work not always with subdivisional surfaces to get neat results for what we want. All right, so I think that'll be a great place to end our table stuff. And then we can start to build some of our other furniture for our room. All right, so I'll stop there.